Bolivia has historically been one of the most unequal countries in the world, where extreme poverty coexists with vast natural resources. Resources that have long been controlled by a small elite of international corporations and local oligarchs. Indigenous leader Evo Morales dramatically changed that trajectory by nationalizing key industries and reclaiming natural resources from foreign control. He invested heavily in the poor and working class, reshaping the country's social fabric. Yet, after a coup that ousted him from power, Morales was ultimately betrayed by his former close ally, now President of Bolivia, Luis Lucho Arce, who has unleashed the full force of the state against Morales and the indigenous movements he once championed. We spoke with the former president. Former President Evo Morales, thank you for being with us, sir.
Thank you very much for the invitation to this interview.
For some time now, we've been doing a series on lawfare in Latin America and how lawfare is used for political reasons. Many causes, many cases, strategic reasons in other cases, reasons of local domination, and above all, economic reasons. Now, in Bolivia, we've learned that there was a similar case. What do you have to tell us about this, Mr. Former President?
¿Qué tiene que contarnos al respecto, señor expresidente?
Para mí una buena oportunidad para aclarar a la comunidad internacional.
For me, this is a good opportunity to clarify to the international community what's happening in the economic, social, political, food, and immigration situations. When I was president, nothing was missing. Almost 14 years of economic growth, 3 million of the 10 million Bolivians living in my beloved Bolivia have risen to the middle class, and now we're falling again. The 2019 coup d'etat, financed by the Donald Trump administration and Elon Musk, owner of Tesla, has now even been reported by WikiLeaks. At that time, we were informed, and also, that the coup d'etat was financed by the lithium issue. A blow not only from the empire to the people, not only from the gringo to the Indian. A blow to our economic model, because our economic model yielded better results than the economic model implemented by neoliberalism, and fundamentally, a coup d'etat for lithium. In 2013, we initiated a plan to install 41 lithium plants, mostly lithium, others for byproducts, and others for inputs. But the state is at the helm, not the transnational corporations. These corporations, by constitution and internal regulations, cannot participate in the extractive sector. They can participate in the industrial sector. We are aware that international companies with a vision for how to protect the environment and participate are important. So, what we are experiencing now is the second coup d'etat. The coup against the indigenous front, against the democratic and cultural revolution led by the Quechua, Aymara, and other nationalities, of course, supported by many social sectors and professional intellectuals we know. We won elections. They hit us. Now they don't even let us participate. The investigation began 2 weeks ago about how those responsible for attacking democracy, for banning indigenous people, parties, and candidates come from the government in coordination with the Supreme Electoral Tribunal and the Plurinational Constitutional Tribunal, so-called, but de facto, self-prolonged. Today we can see some issues here. Bank transfers, plane tickets, and rulings written like an a la carte food order for judges from the Ministry of Justice. The government operation, the Arce administration, to remove Evo Morales from the elections. This headline comes from Spain, from a media outlet. This one from Argentina, in quotes, without manipulation, expertise confirms that the chats against Evo are authentic. We knew since 2012 to 2022 that there was a dark plan about how to destroy Evo. They couldn't do it. They went so far as to fire 18 shots at me on October 27th of last year at 2 cars. God saved me. My parents, Maria Ima and Dionisio Morales-Choque, saved my life. Mother Earth. They are attempting unjust arrests. I'm here because there are, at least, an average of 1,000 to 1,200 security comrades, permanently, for over a year, not only from the Cochabamba tropics, but also from other departments who come to accompany me. Impressive. But it's not just a defense of Evo. It's a defense of the homeland, a defense of the process, a defense of our revolution. It's a defense of the social gains and productive programs that have been implemented over 14 years. So today's elections are not democratic. They are scheduled by the Supreme Electoral Tribunal, but they are not fair, free, or transparent. They are elections with persecution of parties and candidates, proscription of parties and candidates, and fortunately, nothing more, although it's unknown if there will be more developments. In November of last year, my initials were stolen. We borrowed some acronyms.
En noviembre del año pasado me robaron la sigla. Conseguí 2 siglas. Sigla prestara, le quitaron su personalidad jurídica.
According to information, with payments, acronyms from an acronym
Mean political parties.
paid $200,000 to create an acronym. It's proving that, excuse me?
No, I was saying for people that does not understand, acronyms mean political parties, or rather the ability to be able to participate in the election.
Acronym is the name of the political party.
Like the MIS.
First, it was the mass that they stole from us. Then we borrowed the acronym from the Frente para la Victoria party. But by decision of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal, due to government interference, they eliminated it. Exactly the same. They had paid a member of the Electoral Tribunal. It's all documented. $200,000 in a transfer from the wife of Luis Arce Catacora, the president, to Tahuichi's bank account in Panama.
Una de las características del lawfare, digamos,
One of the hallmarks of lawfare in South America is the use of target accusations against politicians who cannot be defeated at the ballot box. These accusations are amplified by the media, repeated endlessly until the public simply assumes guilt, whether or not there's real evidence. We see this, for example, in Argentina, where there's a widespread notion that all the Peronists are corrupt, or in Ecuador, is the same with the Correistas. In Bolivia, the situation is slightly different. Rather than just discrediting the political movement, they've actually co-opted its representation. That hasn't happened in Argentina, where the movement has been discredited but not fully taken over. Also, another key feature of lawfare is its double standard. Legal outcomes differ depending on who is being targeted. Cases with clear evidence are often ignored when they involve certain actors, while flimsy cases are pursued aggressively against other political actors. I would like for you to explain that distinction.
Este proceso de descreditación que le refiero y de cooptación del partido.
A ver, yo quiero refrescar desde cómo se gesta esta intromisión desde Estados Unidos. 18 de abril, perdón.
Let's see. I think the story of how this interference from the United States occurred begins on April 18th. April 1st, November 2022, when we won with Lula in Brazil, Petro in Colombia, and the conservatives gathered in Mexico. I opened quotes and said, "We must stop the expansion of socialism." It was verbatim. We must stop the expansion of socialism and simply not allow it to continue devastating the region or our land. We must rebuild our economies to support our workers and our families. I close quotes.
Y debemos reconstruir nuestras economías para apoyar a nuestros trabajadores y nuestras familias, cierro comillas. Va pasando el tiempo.
Time is passing.
24 de abril, Agencia Boliviana de Información.
Look, on April 24th, Bolivian Information Agency, La Paz, April 18th, 2024. Information leaked from the United States Embassy in La Paz is being analyzed, among others, by the Center for Multidisciplinary Geopolitical Studies. It reveals a new U.S. plan to carry out the recolonization of Latin America and, in the case of Bolivia, aims to consolidate the breakup of the MAS-IPSP, National Action Party of the Socialist Workers' Party, and create an outsider candidate for the 2025 elections, with the goal of seizing natural resources such as lithium and rare earths. Chargé d'affaires of the United States Embassy, Deborah Hevia. In her first months, this is in print. She has been recorded on video. This is verbatim. We have been working to achieve change in Bolivia for some time. Time is of the essence for us, but for it to be a real change, Evo must leave power and close that chapter. From now on, we are going to get more involved with our embassy to strengthen our allies, organizations, and collaborators. For example, our government has always offered scholarships to Bolivia. Who are the allies on the right? Who are the collaborators? What organizations? Some favored organizations. We have them. And who is the collaborator? President Lucho Arce. Here we can read several articles. The United States complains about its adversaries' malign activity in the Lithium Triangle, comprised of Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. Investigation establishes that Great Britain supported Áñez's coup to access lithium. Another, the United Kingdom supported the coup in Bolivia to access its white gold. It financed the coup. 2 or 3 weeks ago, right-wing candidates, including Andrónico Rodríguez and Eva Copa, traveled to the United States to Harvard. They agreed on 2 things before the U.S. State Department. First, the left cannot return to govern in Bolivia. Second, they must keep all the profits. And last week, on Thursday and Friday, the U.S. Chief of Mission to Bolivia said, verbatim, and I put it in quotes, "It is essential to guarantee free, fair, and transparent elections." The ambassador is endorsing this election. Without indigenous participation, without their candidate Evo Morales. In all the polls, we are first. And they do not condemn the proscription or exclusion of parties and candidates. And this was demonstrated here last week, between the 25th, 27th, and 28th, through 3 proclamations. On the 28th, Alianza Popular launched Andrónico Rodríguez. This was a proclamation of a national character. Only 4,378 people participated, according to figures from the Electoral Atlas. Second, at the launch of the MAS and PSP, they stole our acronym. Eduardo Castillo, former Minister of Government, better known as Sonia, that nickname was given to him by the drug traffickers. 12,217 people attended that launch. And this week, there was a rally by a regional federation to support Evo Morales' participation, where 27,247 people attended. So when I say this is a campaign to ban candidates, it's for a reason. On May 16th, there was a peace march to support Evo's registration because we had secured the acronym, and at the last minute, with threats and intimidation, they proceeded to withdraw it. According to the Electoral Atlas, and I have the document here, on May 16th, according to our estimate, using the March checking tool, we saw that the number of people who participated in the march called To Save Bolivia for the Second Time, organized by supporters of former President Evo Morales, was 3.6 million. We have 7 million registered voters. That's more than half. These are just delegates who have come from all over the country to La Paz, South, and I'm proving with documents, with surveys, that this is an interference by the empire against the Bolivian people. The 3rd of this month was the last day for registration and name changes, due to resignations until noon. I had a meeting with a new party, Luis Arce Catacora, president of Bolivia. He was in Mercosur, Argentina, and he called the owner, the party leader. Finally, they refused to give us the space. I declared July 3rd as a day of mourning for the death of democracy, for American interference. We see that a large part of the population has been left without representation.
3 de julio, día de luto, día de duelo, por muerte de la democracia por intervención norteamericana.
Vemos que hay una gran parte de la población que se ha quedado sin representatividad.
And we see that the institutions are doing everything possible to leave you outside the law, so that this large number of people are left without representation, and their interest in ensuring that Bolivia's natural resources benefit Bolivians vanish, if I'm not mistaken.
Naturales de Bolivia se benefician a los bolivianos, si no me equivoco. ¿Es así?
Un dato. Se profundiza el modelo neoliberal.
That's right. A fact. The neoliberal model deepened starting in 1985, under Victor Paz Estenssoro and Banzer, who came from the military dictatorship of Plan Condor until 2005. In 20 years of neoliberalism, oil revenues amounted to $3 billion. From May 1st, 2006, when hydrocarbons were nationalized, until May 10, 2019, oil revenues amounted to $40 billion in less than 14 years. How much would we have left? How much did they steal from us? And they don't forgive me for having nationalized natural resources and closed the U.S. military base. When, fighting here for sovereignty and dignity, we defended the sovereignty of the Bolivian people because the U.S. military base was in my region.
Porque en mi región estaba la base militar de Estados Unidos.
Eso me recuerda mucho a Ecuador, donde fue un caso similar, ¿no? La base similar y...
That reminds me a lot of Ecuador, where there was a similar case, with the removal of the military base, and then the lawfare against the popular movements, which represents the indigenous and working class. And right there in Ecuador, a few months ago, we reported on some chats, just like yours, between General Attorney Diana Salazar and the U.S. Ambassador, geopolitical interference. Let's say from the United States and also from the interest of the Ecuadorian elite in Miami. Is it the same there in the case where chats have been discovered between a minister and a judge to manipulate the law? Tell us a little bit about the details of these chats, who participated, and how representative they were.
Tahuiche, vocal del Tribunal Supremo Electoral.
Tahuichi. He is a member of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal, an institution that should guarantee democracy, a transparent democracy, free elections, fair elections, but without exclusions, without persecution, without prescription of either parties or candidates. And regarding the chats, it has been leaked that the former Minister of Justice, who was fired because they were once again fabricating cases for the courts, specifically interfering in the TCP, the Plurinational Constitutional Court, the chat scandal broke and he was fired. It's hard to understand why, with such evidence, he isn't in jail. He's in the hospital, supposedly for an operation. He needs 40 days of rest. There are comrades who have gone to protests, to social mobilizations, to improve the basic family basket, to provide fuel, and to support the economic movement, who were taken to jail, accused of terrorism. During Lucho Arce's administration, more than 300 leaders are already detained. Right now, my national executive of the Single Trade Union Confederation of Peasant Workers of Bolivia, Ponciano Santos, is in jail. Another national executive, Enrique Mamani, is in jail, under house arrest, after 7 months in prison. It's incomprehensible that corrupt officials remain on the streets. There's no respect for institutions. It's unacceptable that a constitutional court could take over oversight powers from the plurinational legislative assembly. Look, they eliminated the party that lent me the ideas to participate. And a constitutional amparo action was filed before the Constitutional Court. The Constitutional Guarantee Tribunal ruled in our favor. We won, and we won this constitutional action. And to reverse that ruling by the Constitutional Guarantee Tribunal, Tahuichi, a member of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal, was planning with the former Minister of Justice how to get us out of the way. They've repealed the court ruling restoring our electoral rights. It cost $200,000, I repeat, transferred from the wife of Lucho Arce, president of Bolivia, to a bank account in Tahuichi, Panama. They have refuted the expert report, and this morning they confirmed with a 250-page report, which fully demonstrates that the chats are authentic. In these chats, it's clear they drafted the resolution for the judge at the Ministry of Justice to disqualify Evo Morales from the elections. I just sent the evidence to the president of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal, which has demonstrated how they operated, so he can now requalify me. Right now, for the election, which is starting right now for all the candidates. I said it on August 17th. We must have clean elections without prescriptions, neither for parties nor for candidates, in order to be able to comply. We are in that battle. Now, this isn't an isolated incident. The political persecution that happened under Cristina may be a little different. It happened under Correa, that happened under Lugo, sometimes a judicial coup, sometimes a congressional coup. Now the plan, what we're dealing with now, is a Condor plan, the second Condor plan. In the first Condor plan, those who eliminated union leaders, political party leaders, leftist, socialist, progressive, humanist, even anti-intolerance leaders were generals and colonels. Now they're judges and prosecutors. We're reaching that point. But here, the truth is, we're united. The original indigenous people, led by the Quechua Aymara, are defending our revolution, our plurinational state, and our natural resources.
Se me adelantó con la última.
Oh, you got ahead of me in the last question. I was going to ask you about the Plan Condor 2.0. You were part of the group, the South American presidents, that launched a geopolitical challenge to the empire. And I remember you guys had a concept of the Global South. This is in 2012, what I'm referring to. I remember that it was proposed to have a bank in the South and other South-South institutions, several of them, right? And not just between South America, but South America and Africa. And then we saw that Gaddafi got killed, and he was one of the people involved in that plan. What do you have to tell us about that, looking at the current conditions? What's your view of that great chess game?
¿Cómo lo mira usted a ese gran ajedrez?
Era diferente.
It was different. For example, UNASUR with Hugo Chavez, with Lula, with Rafael, with Kirchner, with Mujica. That's where the unity of South American nations, UNASUR, comes from. Then the right won. In some countries, UNASUR was shut down. We promoted CELAC, with Fidel included, and other countries in debates with heads of state, private meetings, open public meetings. Right-wing presidents have no arguments to stop South American integration. CELAC. We consolidated it, and I returned to Bolivia after saying goodbye to Fidel, but Fidel called me on the phone for almost an hour. He told me, Evo, you're still young, and take care of yourselves. CELAC is another OAS. Without the United States, the integration of South America, Latin America, and the Caribbean is the basis for liberating our peoples. We spoke on the phone. So, at that moment, CELAC still survives while UNASUR is eliminated. How can CELAC be institutionalized? Lula, whom I respect and salute, tried to relaunch UNASUR. It's incomprehensible how the president of Chile, supposedly the socialist president, opposed it. So, when they can't defeat us democratically because they're imprisoned by their policies, they decide not to allow leftist, humanist, and anti-imperialist leaders to participate. Why else, then, was there a coup d'etat in Peru against Pedro Castillo? There were peasant patrolmen and teacher leaders in prison, with almost 100 dead. This was endorsed. When there are no human rights, there is no investigation, because the United States governs in Peru, and the United States currently governs here. Just as Rafael Correa had his Lenin Moreno, I have another Lenin Moreno, one worse than Lenin Moreno of Ecuador. Lenin Moreno didn't let Rafael Correa enter here, but he didn't shoot Rafael. They shot me. I repeat for the second time, and there's no investigation by the Attorney General's office. This is the most serious thing. No, now they don't want me to participate. I mean, if I were a candidate, I would win by a minimum, 60%. Here. Why? We had 14 years of economic stability, 14 years of economic growth with social programs. Then, after UNASUR initially strengthened, as a counterpart, they created the Pacific Alliance. They want to advance the policies of the FTAA, Free Trade Areas of the Americas. As a union leader from 2004 to 2005, I used to mockingly say that it shouldn't be called the Free Trade Area of the Americas, it should be called the Free Trade Area of the Americas. But thanks to a summit of heads of state of the Americas with Fidel and Chavez in 2005 in Argentina, the FTAA was defeated. That Pacific group will continue. It will continue to advance. CELAC is strengthened. UNASUR is born. And in addition to that, the Lima Group was born to overthrow Chavez. There is a permanent political battle, a political struggle, and that struggle of the rich, the poor, the people against the empire. And so, integration is so important. I remember a summit of the South American Community of Nations, CASA, that Lula promoted during his first term to strengthen the continent. But I am surprised that some presidents in the Americas are in a stage of rebellion, not just the presidents, but even the military. I am very confident that in the face of the economic situation, which is causing hunger, the people are rising up. What is lacking is leadership, unity of leaders to confront and defeat this open introversion of capitalism.
A la situación económica, el hambre, los pueblos se levantan. Lo que falta es liderazgos, unidad de líderes para enfrentar y derrotar esta abierta intromisión del capitalismo.